I've seen too many first-time cruisers waste hundreds of dollars on things they don't need, get caught off guard by charges they didn't expect, and leave money on the table that the cruise lines hope they'll never ask for. But just because you're new to cruising doesn't mean you can't cruise like an expert. After decades of cruising, I put together a list of 11 things the cruise lines don't tell new cruisers. But I'm gonna tell you today so that you can do your next cruise like an expert. I'm Gary with Optimal Cruising, bringing you insider cruise information to help you avoid mistakes, save money, and protect yourself so that you can have your best cruise ever. These days, with all that's going on in the world, there are more and more delays and cancellations with all types of travel. And one of the biggest mistakes that cruisers make if they are flying into their cruise is flying in the day of the cruise. It's very important to fly in the day before to give yourself a cushion, because if you're flying in the day of, all it takes is for one thing to go wrong and you miss your entire cruise. And look at the bigger financial picture. You've already laid out thousands of dollars for this cruise. If you have to spend an extra $200 to stay a night in a hotel, or maybe even less if you want to stay in an economy hotel, it's worth it to ensure that you're going to make that cruise. And if you're within driving distance of your cruise, allow plenty of extra hours to get there. It's better to get there very early than to get there too late. And keep in mind that the cruise boarding window closes well before the ship's departure time. So plan to get there when they tell you to or before, not later. Don't use the departure time as an anchor for when you need to be there, because if you get there within an hour of that departure time on most cruise lines, the boarding will be closed and you will be denied boarding. Now, once you make it on the ship, avoiding this next mistake will have you looking like a real expert. One of the first things that comes to mind to people when they're going on a cruise is the buffet, because they're usually pretty extravagant, massive, and huge with lots of options that please almost anybody. However, embarkation day or boarding day is not the time to have lunch at that buffet. It is going to be packed with people, crowded everywhere. You'll have trouble finding a table. It'll just feel like ick. So your best bet on day one when you get on that ship is to find another venue to eat at. There's always going to be at least one main dining room open with table service for lunch, and that's included and absolutely free. And then depending on the cruise line you're on, there could be other cafes that are open for lunch on embarkation day that will be less crowded. The minute you get on board, you're going to see dozens of crew members standing around giving out information. The best thing to do, go up to any one of them and ask them what venues are open for lunch. They'll give you a rundown. They can even point you in the right direction on how to get there. This will help you avoid that buffet on embarkation day. Save it for the rest of your cruise. It'll be much less crowded because not everybody is piling in there at the same time. If you're scrolling through social media, you're likely going to come across blogs or posts telling you the 41 items you must pack for your cruise. And that's absolutely nonsense. You're probably not going to use 95% of those things. The best thing to do is pack smart and small. Keep it to a small suitcase if possible and a backpack. The reason you want a backpack is so that you can carry on items on day one and check that bag for delivery later in the day, because you won't have access to any bags that you check until probably the evening of the first day of your cruise. So anything you want that first day needs to go in that backpack. Think about what you're going to really need and really use. And don't overpack the number of clothes. You can do laundry once during the cruise. You can send it out and it'll be delivered right back to you. You're on vacation. Take advantage of these luxury services. Some cruise lines even have self-serve laundry that you can use. And where this comes in really handy is when you're getting off the ship. Because if you have baggage that you can manage and carry off on your own, you're going to have a much more flexible disembarkation day than people who have to rely on the porters to take their bags off the ship because they have too much stuff and they can't handle it. They end up waiting around a lot longer. It gets more crowded, the lines going through customs get longer, and it's just a mess. If you pack smart and you have one suitcase suitcase that you can roll and one backpack and you can carry that off with you, you're golden on that last day. And avoiding this next mistake will save you some money and a real headache. One thing I learned rather quickly when I first started cruising is you want to avoid the cruise ship's medical facility at all costs. And you don't want to be buying anything like OTC medications in the gift shop because the prices are 3, 4, or 5 times what you can get them for back at home. So every time I get on a cruise, I put in my backpack any OTC medications or prescription medications that I'm going to need so that I have them with me on day one. Think about what you use for headaches, for any other issues that you're dealing with, and don't forget to bring on board some remedies for seasickness. Especially if you're new to cruising, bring a couple different things because not everybody reacts the same way to these things. And you definitely don't want to be buying this stuff on board at triple the price. A lot of people like these patches that they put behind their ear that really helps with motion sickness, and they work for a lot of people, but they are prescription only, so you need to get those ahead of time through your doctor. If you have experience with motion sickness, let me know what works for you. Put it in the comments below. A lot of new cruisers tell me that the minute they book their cruise, they start getting bombarded with emails and things trying to get them to book all these extras like the drink package, the dining package, spa treatments, Wi-Fi package. And the truth is, everything that's included with your fare is enough to get by on a cruise. You don't need any of these extras. This is where the cruise lines make their big money. But if you're going on a vacation and you want to go all out, you might want to buy some of these packages. Just make sure you purchase them ahead of time because you're going to get on most cruise lines a considerable discount, as much as 40% off by buying these things ahead of time. If you wait till you get on board and then start buying a drink package or a Wi-Fi package, you're going to overpay. Booking ahead of time, you're going to save a lot of money. But avoiding this next mistake will save you even more. If you've been researching cruises, you've undoubtedly been told that the only safe option for booking shore excursions is to book directly with the cruise line. This is not true. In fact, I have a full video on this subject. I'm going to link it for you up above if you're interested. But this is a big mistake a lot of new cruisers make because there's a lot of reasons to not book directly with the cruise line. And there's some when you probably should. For example, if your itinerary includes a stop at a tender port, that would be a good port to book directly with the cruise line because a tender port is where the cruise ship anchors at sea and they send tender boats to ferry passengers to shore. Well, if you book your excursion directly with the cruise line, it's going to save you a lot of hassle and time because their shore excursions are going to pick you up on a special boat right at the ship and take you directly to that excursion. You're going to bypass the step of having to ferry to shore. However, at most ports where the ship is docking right there, you can find many local providers of shore excursions for heavy discounts off what the cruise ship charges. In fact, I have 2 providers linked in my description you can check out, Viator and Shore Excursions Group, if you're interested. They've got reviews for all of their tours, and the prices are generally 30 to 50% less than what the cruise line charges. And then experienced cruisers sometimes don't even get off the ship at a specific port of call. You might have a port on your itinerary that doesn't have anything you're really interested in. Maybe you want to get off for an hour and just look around, but you don't really want to do a whole excursion. There's nothing that suits you. So stay on the ship. Spend the time on the ship when it's less crowded, when most people are off doing things, and you'll enjoy everything that the ship has to offer a lot more. Now, if you're like me and you don't like paying more for the exact same cruise that a lot of other passengers got for less, you're definitely going to want to avoid this next mistake. This is the mistake cruise lines definitely want you to make, and they don't want you to know that this happens. But once you book your cruise, most people book it and forget it. And they're looking forward to that date, and they don't think about the price again. But cruise industry pricing fluctuates frequently. Actually, from week to week, prices can change. Once you book that cruise, that price you paid is not necessarily locked in stone. If the price drops before your final payment is due, you can call up the cruise line or your travel agent and have them match that price. This could save you hundreds of dollars, even $1,000 or more, depending on how far that price goes down per person and how many people you're taking on this cruise. In fact, on the very last cruise that I booked, 2 weeks after, I found the price drop $150 per person. That right there saved me $300 off of my cruise fare. So it's definitely worth monitoring. Cruise lines are not going to tell you when these prices go down, but if you find it, most cruise lines will match it as long as it's not within that time frame of when that deposit was due. One of the 3 biggest reasons that people miss their ship at a port of call and get left behind is because they don't understand the difference between ship time and port time. The ship time could be an hour ahead of the actual port time. So when you get off the ship, your phone's going to automatically adjust to that local time. And if you forget that the ship time is an hour ahead, you could be late coming back. And this is a mistake that has cost people thousands of dollars, because if you miss that ship, you're responsible for getting back home or getting to the next port of call. If you have a watch, always set it to ship time and keep it that way. If you're relying on your phone's clock, you can go in there and manually change the time so that it's not updated automatically. Change it to ship time and keep it on that. This will ensure that you're following the right time and you make it back to your ship and don't get stuck or left behind. One other thing my wife continues to do, and she loves to do every time we book a cruise, is a lot of research ahead of time. She researches everything about the ship, the ports of call we're going to. A little research ahead of time will have you already thinking about what activities on board, what features you want to enjoy, so that you can figure out where those things are, because the cruise, once you're on it, it's going to seem like it flies by. And if you already have an idea of what catches your interest, you're going to have a better chance of getting all that in and not missing out on anything. And at ports of call, you really want to have that planned out ahead of time, because at a lot of these ports, we actually do excursions on our own. We just plan out where we're going to go, either rent a car, take a taxi there. It ends up being a lot cheaper, and we do it on our own time and at our own pace rather than being herded along with a bunch of other people. And this next thing catches a lot of new cruisers off guard. But before I get to that, if you would take a minute and subscribe to our channel, hit that like button. It helps us grow, and we'll continue to bring you insider cruise information. When I first started cruising, cruise gratuities were nothing like they are today. Back then, it was all handled in cash. You got envelopes when you stepped on board to put money in there for all the people taking care of you. Today, it's handled completely different, and it catches a lot of cruisers off guard, because if you haven't cruised before, or it's been a very long time since you cruised, now they're going to automatically charge your onboard account for your gratuities. And this will show up on some cruise lines after the first or second day. They might charge you for the whole cruise, or they might start charging you every night as the cruise goes. It really just depends on the cruise line. But you do need to budget for this, because it is going to be somewhere in the range of $15 to $20 per person per day. Now, if you're traveling with kids, their gratuities are often halved. Now, if you're traveling on a more premium cruise line, oftentimes the gratuities are already included in your fare, which is nice. But most major cruise lines charge them separately. Now, I have a complete video here on how I like to handle gratuities for myself. If you're interested, I'm going to link it above. A lot of cruisers use this next strategy to avoid paying a lot of extra money for onboard Wi-Fi. I'm going to get to that in a minute, but if you are looking to book that cruise, we maintain a list of the best cruise deals you can book right now. If you're interested in a copy, just comment deals or click on the deals link in our description and I'll email it to you. A lot of cruisers who don't need to be connected 24/7 when they're on their cruise will not buy the ship's Wi-Fi, but they'll still be able to use the app to connect to the ship's system and communicate with any other passengers on board that they're traveling with. You can stay in touch with those people, and when you're at ports of call, you're going to be in cell range again, and you can use your phone like normal without spending $25 a day or so on onboard ship Wi-Fi. One mistake that a lot of new cruisers make, though, is they don't download this app ahead of time. And once you get on board, it could be very difficult to get that app without spending some money on the ship's Wi-Fi. So now that you won't be making some of the biggest mistakes that first-time cruisers make, there are a lot of cruisers overpaying for those extras that cruise lines offer. I'll tell you how to avoid doing that right here.